Hello, listeners. Welcome to episode 1 of Shipwrecked, the Audible Chapters. In yesterday's introduction, I summarized my new book, Shipwrecked, which is the first in a 3-act series titled The Voyage. Shipwrecked chronicles the friendship between characters Tori and Kai over the course of decades, from the onset in junior high school into adulthood. These 11 chapters cover a lot and uncover a lot about this pair. Let's get started. This is Shipwrecked. Acknowledgements. To those who have been a part of my journey, who spent countless hours of your lives listening to my story, providing encouragement and advice, supporting my vision, demonstrating immeasurable patience as I told this story more times than I can count, offering your unfiltered, kind-hearted, sincere perspective. Granny, Allie, Tam, Shani, Alana, Skeeter. Thank you. First, set sail. Tori knew that this time was the time. She had told this story more times than she could keep track of, reliving the experience with every recount. But telling it this time was purposeful and with intent. The details had to be accurate, and the facts needed to be as specific as possible. As far as the receipts, go big or go home. She had one shot to get this right, no mistakes allowed. 3 hours before closing time, Tori arrived at the parking lot. She sat in her car, meticulously reviewing the details in her mind. After a few rounds of 4-7-8 breathing, she felt ready to proceed. With a sense of purpose and unwavering focus, she stepped out of her car and entered the establishment. She quickly spotted the party she was meeting, tucked away in a corner booth. As she approached, she was met with a stand. "Hi," the guest said to Tori. "Hi, how are you?" Tori asked, to which her companion nodded. They sat down, skipped the usual small talk, and endured a short, awkward silence. Tori seized the moment, knowing it was the point of no return. "Well, I might as well get right into it, but I must say this up front. Everything I'm sharing with you is the truth in its entirety, exactly as it happened. It's not my nature to lie or exaggerate about anything. It serves me no purpose," Tori said. Tori wanted to clarify that whatever she said out of her mouth, you could take it to the bank. Just make sure it's not that one bank. They have the right name because once you open an account, you have to chase them for your own money. Tori continued, "I have no desire to embellish their actions to accentuate their flawed character. They need no help from me making themselves look bad. They did a great job of that, all their own." When Tori transferred to a new school in 4th grade for the gifted program, she became instant and inseparable friends with classmate Delaney. Her new friend was socially developed far beyond her years. With multiple younger siblings, absent parents living the fast life, and elder grandparents as guardians, Delaney was playing the role of parent by the time she and Tori met at age 9. Tori also had an absent parent story, though not as gut-wrenching as Delaney's. Tori's maternal grandmother raised her, as many grandmothers did during that era when their young daughters became pregnant. The specifics of the arrangement remain unclear, as both mother and grandmother gave differing accounts of why the grandmother raised Tori instead of her mother, who was a parent of 2 by age 19. At the age of 9, Tori and Delaney were kindred spirits despite their stark personality differences. Delaney was streetwise, fast-paced, and desensitized, while Tori was quiet, introverted, and reserved. Their friendship was a unique blend of polar opposites, yet it thrived on their compatibility. In 6th grade, Mrs. Husk was frequently absent, and no substitute was lined up. The class was divided among the other 6th grade teachers. Much to Tori's delight and Delaney's dismay, both were assigned to Mrs. Baker's class. I'm not going to Miss Baker's class, Delaney said. It's boring in there, and there's nobody in that class. Let's go to Miss Tubbs. Tori was prepared for this tug of war, but as always, her mind was made up. I'm going to Miss Baker's class, where I was assigned. But it's boring in there, Delaney insisted. Good. Boring is just how I like it. Quiet and no problems. You can go to Miss Tubbs if you want to, but I don't, so no, Tori reaffirmed. This was the conversation whenever Mrs. Husk announced she would be gone the next day. And each time, Tori and Delaney split up and went to their desired classes. Friendships were few and far between gifted and non-gifted students. The gifted kids were unfairly perceived as snobbish, nerdy, and privileged, while the non-gifted kids were unjustly rumored to be jealous, resentful, and unintelligent. The groups became familiar with each other through Mrs. Husk's absences, and the assumptions each group had about the other slowly diminished. When the dust settled, an unlikely acquaintance formed between Delaney and Kai, a student in Tubbs's class. Kai admired Delaney, a sight to see for a kid of 11. Kai was a student in Tubbs's class, and whenever Delaney attended Tubbs's class, it gave the teacher a break and an assistant. Delaney was a dominant force with an authoritative aura and the demeanor of an adult. Kai was as intimidated as she was impressed with Delaney's ability to control the students and keep them in line. Whenever she would spot Delaney outside class, joined at the hip with Tori, Kai would run up to them eagerly to engage with Delaney. Kai and Tori did not know each other and, without hard feelings, were not necessarily seeking to. The dynamics of school life were on the verge of significant changes. 6th grade ended, summer vacation came and went, and junior high school was underway. There was a shuffle among staff, and a former 8th grade English teacher, Miss Norman, was the new 7th grade gifted teacher. Although she had a reputation for being mean amongst students who did not know her well, she quickly became a favorite with Tori and Delaney, to whom she also took a special liking. Miss Norman wasn't the only change that 7th grade brought. Delaney, now a preteen, became sexually active and began missing school quite often. Her escapades consisted of romantic involvement with older guys, brushes with the law, and showing up to school with a black eye that she claimed was a hickey on her face from a teenaged boyfriend. The class size also grew substantially. Due to overcrowding in the other 7th grade classrooms, administration decided against formal gifted testing, took the 3 smartest kids from the other classrooms and moved them to gifted. Many new additions were apprehensive about the change, fearing that moving to the gifted class would threaten their reputations as cool kids. Some of the existing gifted students saw the change as positive, while others felt that the new additions were lowering the property value of the gifted class. This new restructuring was a shakeup, to say the least. The newly acquired players included Benjamin, an attractive boy who had never met a stranger. He was new to the school, which made him mysterious and captivating. Benjamin was a tempting package: good looks, a bold disposition, and an extroverted nature. His larger-than-life personality made him appear more mature than the other guys in Miss Norman's class. He was the male counterpart to Delaney, clever, sly, and captivating. He quickly became the center of attention in class and the object of Tori's affection, as this breath of fresh air made her smitten. While most girls were fascinated, the boys in Miss Norman's class envied his admiration. The new lineup of students was unnerving for an already sidelined Delaney. Kai, her former admirer, had joined class along with Bianca, who was a cause for concern. Bianca was absolutely that girl. The boys wanted her, and the girls wanted whatever she had that made the boys feel that way. Bianca was a rare find. She was popular and beautiful, yet arrogance and conceit were far from her character and personality. Once Bianca joined class, Delaney attended less and less. She went on a 3-week absence streak, and her whereabouts were unknown. Tori tried to reach her best friend by phone, but her landline didn't have call waiting, and every attempt of Tori's was met with a busy signal. Delaney resurfaced after her hiatus, and the 12-year-old informed Miss Norman that she had been incarcerated. Delaney's return to class was short-lived, but before bowing out completely, she managed to create a catastrophe amongst Tori and Kai. Before the class changed, the two had no dealings and therefore no issues. Once Kai became a classmate, the two instantly became cordial and pleasant with one another. In a few short weeks, they were in the early stages of a friendship. Soon after, Delaney threw a curveball. She informed Tori that Kai had made insulting remarks about her on a phone call the previous night. Despite their close bond, Tori knew Delaney's habit of stretching the truth like some leggings a size too small. Tori concluded that the allegations were untrue and created by Delaney with a motive, until Delaney presented a witness, Paige. Like Benjamin, Paige was new to the school and the class. She was still getting to know everyone and did not have a particular alliance to any person. Delaney protested that Paige was on the phone call with her and Kai and heard her say disparaging things about Tori. Paige verified Delaney's allegations. Right there in Mr. Ho's social studies classroom, Tori delivered an unexpected reaction. She had a profanity-laced conversation with Delaney and Paige, a far cry from her usual behavior. The room fell silent as classmates noticed an inflammatory exchange among the trio. They were straining to overhear the details and figure out what was happening. With all revealed and Kai made aware of the charges against her, she timidly denied them. Delaney insisted to Kai's face that her version of the conversation they shared was true, and Paige co-signed. Tori decided the budding friendship with Kai was over, and Delaney disappeared shortly after. With Delaney gone, the merging of seasoned and new students progressed more steadily. Tori was never resistant to forming friendships with the newcomers because of Delaney's opposition. Initially open and receptive to blending the old and new, Tori's decision changed after Kai's indiscretion. Once ample time passed with no Delaney in sight, Kai revisited the dispute between her and Tori, in which she again denied the allegations. Paige decided to drop a bombshell of her own. She admitted that she was never on the phone and never witnessed a conversation in which Kai spoke ill of Tori. Paige claimed she agreed to Delaney's lie because she was new and did not want to be alienated for going against the self-appointed leader. Paige apologized for her involvement, and Tori and Kai declared a truce. Although Tori decided to forgive and forget, the remnants of the experience made her tread lightly with new friendships. The contentious experience was not easy to erase, leaving a lingering caution in her interactions. Kai had attached herself to Bianca, mainly in a desperate attempt to somehow get secondhand attention from all that Bianca was receiving. Bianca remained unavailable or uninterested in the boys in class, but that didn't derail their flirting or pursuit. Kai, on the other hand, was very interactive with the boys in class. She engaged in wrestling acts and other play fighting that kept them in constant physical contact. With closed eyes and a Cheshire cat grin, she would be in pure bliss as heavy-handed boys grabbed her by her arms and flung her across the room. Bianca would never. The boys liked Bianca. What they couldn't get from Bianca, they settled for from Kai. There was a boy in class, an original, named Roman, and he liked Kai. His behavior was different than the boys who fought with her. He was from an educated family where older siblings attended a private high school before heading off to prestigious universities out of state. His parents were strict and had high expectations of academic excellence and personal conduct. This unique background set him apart from the other boys in class. Before the arrival of Benjamin, who made every other boy in class obsolete, Roman thought of himself as the it guy. Roman was attractive and well-dressed, with an exciting and poised personality. Overall, he was the average, well-behaved preteen. Well, other than the time he crushed Tori's feelings in 5th grade. At some point, Roman's crush on Kai became common knowledge, as did every other boy's crush on Bianca. Bianca never gave in to the many advances towards her, making the boys want her more. This fueled Kai to mimic the action, hoping to get the same result, but the two girls were different and yielded different outcomes. Bianca was esteemed. Therefore, her assurance wouldn't allow her to lead boys on that she had no interest in. Kai lacked that confidence and needed much validation, especially sharing space with a girl as revered and desired as Bianca. She knew about Roman's affection towards her, and instead of engaging with him, she passed the time every day entertaining his best friend in his face. Roman's best friend was one of the boys in constant combat with Kai, dragging her like a rag doll for pure entertainment. It was equally pleasurable for Kai, who enjoyed the sorrow she believed Roman had from bearing witness to this exchange with his crush and best friend. As 7th grade ended, Tori and Kai became better friends. Tori told Kai about her attraction to Benjamin, and Kai told Tori about Roman's feelings for her and her lack of feelings for him. Tori encouraged her to give him a chance, but Kai was unwilling, as she had her sights on an 8th grade boy. After summer break, everyone returned as the top dogs of the school, officially 8th graders. Students gathered on the first day and reacquainted before the start of class. There was excitement to catch up on each other's summers and anticipation of who the teacher would be. When Kai and Tori connected, there was a rapid debrief in which Kai told her some enticing information. Benjamin moved over the summer and would not be returning to school. Kai also claimed that Benjamin confessed to her last school year that he was utterly enamored with Tori, but feared rejection and chose not to say anything. Tori was a bit taken aback by this report, as fear of rejection was not Benjamin's style. He was smooth and secure, never one to shy away from what or who he wanted. Tori and Benjamin liked each other, but neither knew that information. But Kai did. If Kai knew they liked each other, why didn't she share that information with her two friends? Had Benjamin known how Tori felt, he would have had no reservations about pursuing her. Had he made his affection known, Tori would not have rejected his advances. Kai knew all this information and concealed it on both sides when each confided in her. Tori asked Kai why she waited until Benjamin was gone to tell her about his attraction. With a shrug and blank expression, Kai responded, he asked me not to. No sooner than Kai revealed the secret, a figure turned the corner from the breezeway. It was Benjamin, in the flesh, not relocated out of town to live with his father. The shock on Kai's face was as if she had seen a ghost. This unexpected turn of events left everyone in suspense. As everyone headed to class, they were greeted by none other than Miss Norman, who had switched from 7th to 8th grade gifted to teach the same group of students again. Two significant surprises were brought by 8th grade: the return of Miss Norman as the teacher and the introduction of A Way Forward. A Way Forward was launched after the return from Christmas break, a new program for wayward students to get back on track to graduate 8th grade. Despite sharing a campus, A Way Forward participants were kept separate from Jimerson students, and the principal strictly forbade any socializing between the two groups. They took lunch at the same time as 8th graders, and on their first day, Tori and friends saw Delaney, now 13, in the A Way Forward program and 5 months pregnant. It was the first time she had been seen since her enigmatic departure from 7th grade. A wave of emotions, from shock to sadness, swept through the crowd as she waved in embarrassment to Tori and her former classmates. Besides these instances, 8th grade was simply 7th grade the remix. Tori secretly liked Benjamin, and he was up to his same predictable ways of teenage philandering and playing the field. Tori never brought to him what Kai told her. Although she liked him a lot, She remained reserved with traditional values. She felt pursuing her would be his task if she were what Benjamin wanted. However, they did share a passionate exchange at Tori's 14th birthday party. A classmate, known for her epic house parties, threw one to celebrate Tori and another friend's birthday on a Friday night in February. Current and former classmates, as well as high school kids in the neighborhood, attended. Lasting to the wee hours of the morning, a handful of teens, including the two birthday girls, stayed overnight. That sleepover became truth or dare until 4 a.m., consuming birthday cake and beer, supervised by a college-age chaperone. 13 and 14-year-olds playing truth or dare eventually becomes multiple rounds of I dare you to kiss whoever is in the room. Benjamin was dared to kiss Tori and was up for the challenge. They began to kiss as the partygoers counted to 5, at which point the kiss was supposed to end. Benjamin and Tori kept going, and this was no longer a game kiss, but a long-awaited mutual crush kiss. After 17 seconds, their lips parted, and what was once suspected and speculated was now undoubtedly affirmed. They liked each other. Roman's affection for Kai remained steadfast, despite her apparent interest in other boys, as she directed her attention elsewhere. She seemed to engage in those physical encounters with other boys to divert attention from Bianca, or perhaps it was the cruel pleasure she derived from ignoring the only boy who desired her. Yet, despite her dismissive actions, Roman's feelings for her did not waver, and Kai's sparring with other boys did little to diminish their affection for Bianca. For reasons unknown and at Tori's suggestion, Kai finally relented and agreed to date Roman just 3 weeks before 8th grade graduation. Their courtship, however, was as brief as it was unexpected. It began on a Friday and ended in scandal the same day. It was the day of the final dance, the middle school's version of prom and a farewell to the graduating class. Competing with the festivities at Tori's birthday party 2 months earlier, there was a private after-party with a handful of pre-graduates following the dance. At this impromptu shindig, in which Kai nor Tori were in attendance, there was a kiss between Roman and another girl. Upon learning of Roman's misstep at school the following Monday, Kai dropped him and never picked him back up. On the cusp of graduating, the group was about to embark on a new chapter. Most of them would be going their separate ways. Tori, Kai, and Bianca were set to attend the same high school, while Roman would join the same private school as his older siblings. On the other hand, Benjamin was moving to another city to attend high school. With childhood in the rearview mirror and high school on the horizon, the group was ready to move onward and upward. That concludes the first audible chapter of Shipwrecked. That first chapter is titled Set Sail. To now summarize the chapter. This chapter introduces you to some key players. It introduces Tori and Kai and gives the background or the foundation of how they become friends, how they come to know each other, which is a bit of a sticky journey there. They didn't know each other, Tori being in the gifted class, Kai being in Miss Tubbs' class, and Delaney being that bridge between the two. Delaney and Tori were best friends, and Delaney knew of Kai from the time she spent in Tubbs' class. And Kai was so impressed by Delaney. She looked up to her. She was a sight to see. Delaney was like an adult woman in an 11-year-old's body. And Kai gravitated towards her. She wanted a friendship with Delaney. She felt like they were friends based off whatever their interaction was in Tubbs' class. And she carried that outside of just the confines of Delaney visiting the classroom. She wanted to be friends with her in general. not just casually when Delaney visited the class. So Kai and Tori didn't know each other at that time. They started to get to know each other once Kai moved to Gifted when they were in Miss Norman's class. They got along well, they got along fine until Delaney made that accusation that Kai was talking about Tori on the phone with Delaney. So, to that specific incident, 2 quick points. Tori and Delaney had a close friendship. As much as they liked each other, Tori knew who Delaney was and who Delaney wasn't. And she knew that honesty was not one of her strong points. And she also knew that Delaney wasn't too fond of Tori having outside friendships. It was one of those unspoken things. You know how it is when you're friends with someone and you know that they aren't crazy about the idea that you have other friends? So it was that sort of thing. Now, their friendship was more solid than their acquaintances with other people. Delaney has vocalized before when the group of kids in Gifted who hang out with each other at lunchtime or are the ones who sit together at the assemblies or whatever else. Delaney has made it clear before, verbally, vocalizing, that they are not a group. They are not a clique of friends. It is Tori and Delaney. And whoever we permit to hang out with us that day, then that's who's hanging out with us that day. But don't assign this clique or this label of a group with us. We are best friends, and it's just the two of us. Delaney had no reservations about saying that at any opportune time that she found it necessary to say. Now, that was her position. Tori didn't share that same sentiment. Tori was best friends with Delaney, but Tori was also friends with the other people in class as well. And she didn't deem it necessary to have this exclusive friendship with Delaney in which the other members in class, the other friends in class were ostracized from a group friendship. The way Tori saw it was, we are all a group of friends, and then within the group of friends, we have our individual relationships with each other. But it's not a situation like Tori and Delaney are the two people who are friends and that's it. And if Delaney wanted to uphold that position and that limitation with her relationships, she was free to do so. But it's not the way Tori saw it. And it's not the way she moved with people. Yes, she was reserved, quiet, introverted. Most of the time, her acquaintances or friendships with people were initiated by the other person. She had this thing about her, this kindness, this acceptance sort of thing in her aura. You knew that it was safe to go be friends with Tori. If you couldn't go be friends anywhere else or with anyone else, you could go be friends with Tori. And not just any old body though, not the troublemakers, not the instigators, not the ones that kept all the drama going, and not the ones that kept people feuding and pot stirrers, not those people, but just people who were the outcasts, people who were not so easily accepted and who didn't have their own friend group. They could always rely on a positive, accepting encounter dealing with Tori. And Tori wasn't willing to shut that off as innate and natural as it came to her. She wasn't willing to just shut that off because Delaney felt like, you and I are friends and that's it. So when Delaney saw that a friendship was forming between Kai and Tori, my perception of these characters is that Delaney is territorial. And at the foundation of that territorial behavior is actually a feeling of insecurity. Delaney believed that if Tori made friends with other people, that Delaney herself would become dispensable. Although she talked like an adult, she acted like an adult, she appeared to have this no nonsense confidence. It was actually a facade. What she was actually masking was an insecurity she had about the longevity of her significance in other people's lives. Somewhere in Delaney's story, she went from being significant to insignificant. And she wasn't about to chance feeling those emotions again. She wasn't going to risk being Tori's best friend for the past now 4 years. This is the 4th year of their friendship. They met in 4th grade, so they were friends 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. We're now at 7th grade. So this is 4 years of partnership. And she is not about to risk losing that as a result of Tori and Kai forming a friendship. So she made a decision to be destructive and disruptive in the forming of that friendship to spare herself the experience of being tossed aside once again. That fear of insignificance had everything to do with why Delaney stopped coming to class once Bianca was in that class. Bianca was the sole recipient of male attention in this setting. Delaney had been the sole recipient of all attention prior to the merging of the classes. But Delaney was the center of attention in a very different way than Bianca was. You know how someone is the center of attention because they are physically attractive or fashionable or sexy or scantily dressed. And you have people who are the center of attention because they are funny, they are boisterous, they are talkative, they are intriguing in some way that's not necessarily under the umbrella of the superficial things that make people pay attention to people. Bianca belonged in the first group of people who get attention and why. Delaney belongs to the second group. Delaney felt that Bianca's ability to command attention surpassed hers. She felt that being funny, being comedic, being dramatic, being authoritative did not measure up to Bianca being pretty. This is 7th grade. These are 12 and 13-year-old boys and girls. Character and personality and behavior at this age and at this stage and phase, those things just don't matter as much as what people look like. Delaney was already struggling with this merger of students because it's changing the power dynamic. This gifted class has remained together year after year after year. Some students leave and other students come, but it's usually the same core group of about a dozen students that remain year after year. Everyone's roles in this dynamic have already been established. With such a small group, Everyone knows each other pretty well. With the different personalities amongst this small assortment of students, classmates, it wasn't a hard sell for Delaney to emerge as the self-appointed leader. Now, by no means is Delaney a bully. She just thinks she's running the show. She sees herself as the boss. You know how when there's a bunch of cousins together, it's a whole bunch of you, 10, 12, and there's always one who decides that they're the leader of the pack. It happens by second nature. No one disputes it. No one fights it. No one wants the title for themselves. No, by no means is anyone scared of this person or a follower of this person simply because they don't have the desire to overthrow this person who has decided that they are going to be the leader, the captain of the ship. That's Delaney. All the kids gather to play a game of kickball, and there's a person, the self-appointed leader, who decides and starts calling the shots on what's going to be what, and they name themselves captain, and then they dictate and decide who's going to be the captain on the other team, and then who's going to pick in what order and who can't pick who. That's Delaney. And that had been Delaney for years. So when seventh grade came and there was this merger, that was of great concern to Delaney. To be the self-appointed leader of this small group of people that you're closely acquainted to, that you've known for years, very up close and personal, to now being in a classroom twice its size, population-wise, with people you don't know personally, you don't have the rapport with, and who may have no reason or desire to adhere to this hierarchy the way it is. They may come in with the mindset that it's time to retire the old way of doing things. Delaney very much felt outnumbered and that her grip of control was slipping. And she would much rather step down than to lose. So she quit in lieu of termination, which takes me back to that fear I mentioned earlier that she had about losing her position of significance. That was a multi-layered fear. That wasn't limited to or specific to Tori and Kai forming a friendship. She cared about it in that regard, losing her position there. She cared about losing her position with the self-appointed leadership of the gifted class. She was concerned about losing her position with being the center of attention now that Bianca was in this class. It became too much for Delaney. She was not willing to go from being the star player to now sitting on the bench, especially to be benched over what she felt like was a rookie who could outperform her, but nonetheless a rookie, not on her team. So she asked for a trade. Tori and Benjamin, their story is as old as time. The bad boy, the good girl, they liked each other. The mutual crush between them isn't accelerating forward because Benjamin is flirty, he's playful, he's what the senior generation now used to call mannish. So he liked girls, all the girls liked him, and Tori was a very different kind of girl. You can't just go around the corner and get a Tori anywhere. She was definitely one of one, and I don't think Tori grasps that at her age, understandably so, at 12 or 13. But She didn't receive this overabundance of male attention. And what Tori doesn't realize at this point is there are complexities beyond her teenage understanding as to why the most confident of boys that age are not approaching a girl of her caliber. From the perspective of Benjamin, who's never at a loss of words, who is very skilled with the things that he says, what do you say to a Tory? Sometimes it's not that someone doesn't want you. Sometimes they don't know how to attract you. Sometimes they are at a loss on how to pursue you because they're fully aware that they are dealing with a person and a situation that is unfamiliar territory for them. And they just don't know how to navigate those waters. So instead of getting in that water and realizing it's too deep for them to stand up as they normally do, they rather just stay on land and enjoy the beautiful view of the water, sitting on the shore where it's safe. Kai and Bianca, they have a forced friendship. It is one of those pairings that it makes sense for them to be friends, but the authenticity is missing. On paper, this pairing makes sense. They are the same age. They came to Gifted the same way at the same time. They live in the same neighborhood. They were both new to Gifted and both had boys have crushes on them immediately on coming to the class. It made sense on paper for them to be friends, but it just wasn't real. It's kind of like, remember on Girlfriends when, well, I better give a spoiler alert. If you have not watched Girlfriends and you plan to, if you haven't watched it, where have you been? It's been off the air since 2008, but it's on Netflix currently. So if you haven't watched and you plan to, go ahead and turn down the audio for the next, I don't know, maybe 45 seconds or so I can say this piece in part without telling anything to anybody. Okay, go. Remember on Girlfriends, season 5, when William and Joan began dating. It made sense on paper for them to date. They were both successful. They were both chronically single. They were both lawyers. They had this solid friendship. They liked each other a great deal platonically. He was unlucky in love. She was unlucky in love. It just made sense for them to be together. It wasn't working anywhere else. And they were so fond of each other and so close in their friendship. It just made sense. And then they got together and it was disastrous. They got together and it was the worst relationship that either of them had been in. So things can work on paper, but not actually work out. And Bianca and Kai's friendship was that. Kai didn't want to have to compete with Bianca. She knew where the center of attention was, and she didn't want to compete the same way Delaney didn't want to compete. So Kai thought if she joined forces with Bianca, they could be a dynamic duo as opposed to being competitors where she would inevitably lose. Roman was the boy in class who liked Kai, and all of the other boys liked Bianca. And for that reason, Kai was not interested in Roman. She didn't want the one guy who didn't want Bianca wanting her. She wanted to make someone who liked Bianca already stop liking Bianca and like her. Kai had insecurities as well, a great deal of them. And at the root of her insecurities was this need to be chosen over someone else. So Roman choosing her out of all of the girls in class didn't feed that need of being chosen over someone else. Although she's the one being chosen, she's the one that he has the attraction to, but that is not soothing to that flare up. She wanted something very specific. She wanted a boy who liked Bianca originally to stop liking Bianca and like her instead. Which is why she would be in these physical combat moments with some boy who liked Bianca. Play fighting with a girl was not behavior that was reflective of Roman's character or personality. That wasn't his thing. His way of giving attention to a girl that he likes and the attention Kai preferred were incompatible. She didn't care about Roman liking her because Roman wasn't liking her the right way for her. She wanted to be snatched and yanked and tossed and punched and thrown in a headlock. And she wasn't going to get that, not from him. There was an element of taunt mixed with a little punishment when Kai would engage that way with Roman's best friend. It was almost like making him pay a penalty for not engaging with her that way. Almost like, well, if you were doing it, I wouldn't go and do it with someone else. Kai was getting a 2-for-1 because this best friend of Roman's also had a crush on Bianca. So she was in that moment taking attention from Bianca and also sticking it to Roman. Bianca had no interest in this boy whatsoever, but that didn't matter. That was neither here nor there for Kai. In the moment, she was able to dominate attention of a boy that she knew was attracted to and interested in Bianca. So in that moment, she reveled in the feeling of being chosen, that thing that she wants so much, that thing that motivates a lot of her behaviors with boys. So play fighting with Roman's best friend was a double entendre. It served two purposes, taking the attention from Bianca as well as sticking it to Roman, a form of punishment for not showing her attention in the manner that she prefers it. We have reached the end of episode 1 of Shipwrecked, the Audible chapters. I enjoyed today's episode, reading with you all. I look forward to the questions that you pose for episode 1, chapter 1. I will begin episode 2 by answering any of the questions that you pose. And I look forward to reconnecting tomorrow for episode 2. The format of the episode is answering the questions that you pose for episode 1, reading chapter 2, and then summarizing chapter 2. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Bye.